So the Book of Giants starts off with the Watchers who descend on Mount Hermon. They've seen the daughters of men. They're beautiful, and they want to take as many wives as they can, and that's what they do. They start to give birth to offspring, these Nephilim, and these are not small individuals. The Book of Enoch says that they were 3,000 ells. First of all, nobody really knows what an ell is, but there's another place where it says that these creatures were up to 450 feet tall. Now, that can feel like an exaggeration until you start to look at some of the petrified remains that you see all around the world. They don't just sleep with the daughters of men. It talks about how they take 200 donkeys, 200 goats, 200 of the serpents, 200 of these, that, and they start to do experimenting between creatures of the earth and humanity and start making monstrosities by genetic alteration, right? So I believe that's where you start to get a lot of these demonic dragons from. I'm not going to say that they didn't exist before, to be clear, but I believe that these chimera, these hybrid that they create are probably in some ways grotesque shadows of wonderful things in heaven and then just demonic imagination. So you've got all these chimera. I believe that you run into centaurs, minotaurs, more sea serpents. I believe that you're running into werewolves. I believe that you're running into these jackal-headed men. I believe that you're running into griffins, sphinxes. I believe all of those were real at some point in time. And I think those were some of the more tame creatures that were out there. Mythologies keep these things alive. And when people stop paying attention to mythologies, you get the folklore, right? When that stopped, you get these tall tales. Now people don't believe the tall tales anymore. What do we have? We've got the comic books, right? The stories never actually die.
I still think Atlantis is a fairy tale.
They just find a new way of being presented to keep them in the public conscience. So when they actually bring them back out in the last days, because remember, Matthew 22 says that the latter days or the last days will be like the day of Noah. They will not, quote unquote, be at fault because they always told us what was going on, even though we just saw it under the guise of entertainment or mythological history. So they're creating all of these creatures and they're eating all the produce of the land, all the food, all the animals, all the fruit, all these things until they've completely depleted the resources. And so then they begin to revert to cannibalism and the earth is crying out against them. Well, then that's when they start having dreams. There's one named Mawe. He's the first one to have a dream, and he goes back and he tells these giants and these monsters in this great assembly about his dream. And then others start to have dreams as well. So there's Mawe. There's these two brothers named Oya and Haya. There's an individual there named Gilgamesh, believe it or not. They're all going around talking about how there was this tablet with all of these 200 names on it. It was submerged in water. And when the name came up, there were only 3 names left. Now, a lot of people believe that those 3 names were the sons of Noah. I don't believe that. I believe that the names left over were probably, I don't know this, but I'm just saying, I believe that those names could have been the names of the Nephilim that would survive the flood. One of the things that was prophesied to them by Enoch was that before this flood came, these Nephilim would begin to destroy each other, and the watchers would have to watch their offspring die. You see this in Greek mythology with the Titanomachy. You see it in other places as well. It really makes me curious. Was it that they knew that only 3 of them would survive, or only 3 branches of all of these creatures would survive? And so they began a civil war to be the survivor. Could that have happened? I don't know. Ultimately, these dreams inflict them, or rather these dreams begin to afflict them. Oya and Haya, who are these twin sons of Semyaza, who was the leader, they obviously pull some level of weight or rank in this assembly, and they're conversing with Gilgamesh, and Gilgamesh is like, hey, I'm a great warrior on the earth. They know me as the wild man, but I cannot stand up against the armies of heaven. And they all realize that. But it seems like Oya specifically and Haya do not want to give in. They refuse the prophecies and say that it's not for them. Oh no, this is for Azazel or Azazel because he's the main one who's done this. Besides, our fathers are not going to let us be destroyed. Also, look at us. Look at your strength. Let's resist them. We don't have to give in to this. One of the things that they say is that this isn't for us. The leader has cursed the potentate. Now, it's interesting. I don't know if you remember this from another podcast, but the word potentate there, or potent, means powerful. And we talked about Lamech, one of the descendants of Cain, and Lamech means potent or powerful. We also posited that he might have been the one who had the initial conversation with the Watchers. His daughter Naamah was one of the daughters given in marriage to Samael, giving birth to two twin boys, Amalek after her father and Samael after his father. The reason that's important is because when he says that the leader has cursed the potentates, it sounds like he's trying to say that, hey, this judgment and the dreams that you're seeing, this isn't for us. God above is about to punish the leadership and rulership of the earth. And in that regard, who is the leadership of the earth? Well, Lamech was in the way of Cain, because he did the same things that Cain did: rape, murder, and the like. And his name, Akalamdug, which is another derivative of Lamech, is found in the Sumerian king list, which was before the flood. In other words, what Oya the giant is positing is that, hey, this judgment is not for us. It's for their kings. Their kings are going to get judgment. He's going to deal with humanity because he created them. That's their deal. But our fathers are not going to allow us to be destroyed. Now, keep in mind, this verse in 14, the Lord is coming with 10,000 of his saints, or 10,000 of his holy ones, is a direct quote from the book of Enoch, which talks about the judgment of the Watchers. So anybody that is reading this book understands the interplay between the book of Giants and the book of Enoch. It's all there, right? I think in today's society, we don't necessarily see it, which is why it's important for us to kind of know the background of the story. So ultimately, these giants and monsters have no peace. They say to Mawe, hey, go and find Enoch, the righteous man. Ask him what these dreams mean. They go to find Enoch. Enoch tells them, hey, you're not going to have any peace and your days are going to be cut short. I know that you have this immortal spirit in you and you want to live forever like those in the spirit world, but that is not your portion and you will be judged. Have a good night. That's basically his message. And for the most part, from what we have, that's where the book of Giants ends. But then it plays right into the book of Enoch. And then Jude, verse 14, behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his saints. The book of Enoch calls those his holy ones. This is a direct quote, and that's where the book of Enoch really begins. So I really want to take some time in the future here to go over the book of Enoch in more detail, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about the actual book of Giants first and how it actually plays into Jude. So what is the connection here with those that have crept into the church? When the flood came, the bodies of these Nephilim creatures were destroyed, but their spirits still roamed the earth, seeking who they may devour and looking for vessels to possess. This is where demonic possession comes from, because daemonium or daemonium means guiding spirit. Anytime you look at cultures like in Africa or in Greece, right, you see it in movies like Avatar where you've got this oracle. It's demon possession, where they start to have seizures and things like that and have visions. Actually, the word there, when Jesus sees the man who is inflicted by an evil spirit, and his father says it throws him into the water and to the fire to destroy him. So different versions have different things. One of the things that you see is it says that he's an epileptic, but in other books it says that he's a lunatic. That word lunatic has been robbed of its meaning. Luna, meaning moon. Well, who's the god of the moon? Bel. Right? So this is a direct correlation to being possessed by the god of Bel. Right? So in this one culture where it's, oh, he's a lunatic, he's cursed. In other cultures, he's blessed and could literally be an oracle. Right? So we have to understand. Now, again, why is all of this important? Because you've got people who are possessed by these demonic spirits. After the flood, when life begins on the face of the earth, these demonic spirits start to find individuals to possess, specifically the Canaanites, or the people of Canaan, who were created because of a perverse union between Ham and his father's wife. This transgression opens them up to demonic possession. These demons begin to possess people. They begin building civilizations at the direction of these demonic spirits. And you begin to see the mysteries of Babylon begin. Empires rise and fall, but these spirits are always here, and they're always looking for a way to infiltrate the world for their own purposes, like they did before the flood. Christianity comes, and the first thing you see in Jesus is someone who has the ability and the power to banish these spirits from people, right? Nobody has ever really seen that before. But even in the early church, what they do is like, well, if we can't beat them, let's join them. So now these spirits are partnering with people who are already against the church, and they're infiltrating the church, coming in as wolves in sheep's clothing. It's the same agenda. It's the same rebellious spirit, right? It's still the way of Cain. It's still the rebellion of Korah. It's still the era of Balaam. But because we don't know sound doctrine, instead of reading our word, we're listening to these pastors who are saying things that sound good to our flesh. And before we know it, the doctrine that we're following is the wickedness of the world. And now we're falling into the same perversity. We're falling into the same pride. And we're being swept away again by the same thing that caused the world to be swept away before. And before we know it, we, the church, are helping to usher in the days of Noah. I hope this podcast helps. I feel like I jumped around quite a bit, but let me know if you have any questions. Leave some comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Nobody here claims to be an expert, but I do know it's the glory of God to conceal a matter and the honor of kings to seek it out. So let's seek it out together. Till next time, take care.
What do you believe? The people of the masses are deceived.